Welcome to episode 4 of the Buyer Enablement Podcast. If you're sitting back wondering, weren't Jerod and Josh wearing that same outfit at the beginning of episode 3? Well, we're batch recording this intro here because these last couple episodes, we shot them in pretty close proximity, and so we just decided to do the intro at the same time. So, nice eye. You caught us. I'm not ashamed. Regardless, this episode number 4,
big one.
Dude, seriously. Big moment in my own personal life.
Quote, Josh Feedy, best podcast I've ever recorded.
It honestly was. It was the best podcast I've ever recorded. Possibly the best podcast ever recorded, if I have anything to say about it. Because Daniel Disney. Are you kidding me? Daniel Disney. I don't know how this guy thought, yeah, I'll do this podcast with this Josh guy from the States and sitting in middle of nowhere in Minnesota. Like,
he's from England. He's across the pond there.
He's across the pond. Yeah. I used that reference a couple times.
Why not have this way to hang out with you? Imagine that.
Well, I mean, it was awesome. It was awesome meeting this guy. Like, for a salesperson like me, the daily sales on LinkedIn has always been just a solid source of a couple laughs during the day. And anybody in sales knows that every once in a while you just need a couple laughs.
It's trench humor, for sure.
It is.
Yeah. It's front lines, share the pain, good meme content.
Absolutely. And one of these days he's going to have to give some royalties to like Leonardo DiCaprio, right?
Wolf on Wall Street.
The Wolf on Wall Street one is getting a little used.
There's a lot.
But regardless, he has a brand new book coming out. He has his former book that he's promoting, The Million Pound LinkedIn Message, which translated into American dollars is more than $1 million.
Yes.
So it's even more important in America than it is there.
Yeah.
I think, as long as I did my math accurately, doesn't really matter.
Exchange rate, No, you're correct.
Regardless, look, I wanted to have Daniel Disney on here because social selling is it's a buzzword right now. It's so hot, but it's also so incredibly important right now. And when we're talking about enabling buyers, in my mind, that's kind of where it starts, is at the human level.
Yes.
Discovering who this person is that you're going to be working with, and how do you get discovered by the people that you want to have working with. And I couldn't think of anyone better, honestly, than Daniel Disney to discuss this with our audience.
Yes, wonderful. Episode 4. Let's get in it.
Man, tried to bring him in and set him up for something hot there, but it just went right into it.
Where was I supposed to go?
That's fine, but hey, let's roll it. Hey everybody, welcome to the Buyer Enablement Podcast. This is episode 4, and we are coming out so strong out of the gate here. Today I have a guest. I don't even know how this is happening to me. I don't know how this is happening in my life. I am fanboying, and I don't care. I'm totally unapologetic about this. It's just the way it's going to be. Today, we have Daniel Disney. And if you're listening and you're going, Daniel Disney? Who's Daniel Disney? Is that like Disney? Like Disney World? No. What you definitely know is you definitely know about the daily sales. If you're on LinkedIn and you've seen the funny memes, the funny sales memes, you know who this person is. This is like, the daily sales isn't just like this channel that exists. There's somebody behind this. And he's a really cool guy. And he's somebody that I've been following for a long time. He's someone that people that I network with speak very highly of. I've been running into him on just all kinds of virtual things that are happening all over the world right now because of COVID. It's bringing us all closer. So even though he's on the other side of the pond, it's like he's my neighbor at this point. So he was willing to be on the podcast, believe it or not. I don't know why, but everybody help me welcome Daniel Disney. Daniel, welcome to the podcast.
Josh, what an introduction. I am honored and excited to be here. We've been, like you say, speaking for a while now, and it is as if we do work in the same building. That's the beauty of technology. So I'm super pumped and keen to get started. I think we've got a lot to chat about.
Let's do it. What time is it where you are right now, Daniel?
It is currently 10 o'clock in the evening here in the UK.
Wow, it's late for you. I was just making sure because it's 4 o'clock in the sales reach office and we always drink scotch at 4 o'clock. So I just wanted to make sure this was appropriate. I mean, it's 10 o'clock, so hopefully, it's appropriate on your end as well there. So there we go.
It is. I feel unprepared, actually. I should have got a glass myself. But
you're horribly unprepared, but you do have a king's crown behind you and a stack of your own books. So there we go. So I don't know, if you're listening to this, you aren't seeing the video. If you're watching the video, you're seeing that, Daniel is doing exactly what I do every day. If I take off a button, don't worry, I'm not going to fully defrock here, but I always have my company logo on. I always wear the shirt. I'm always branded, as are you. I haven't seen you without the social selling shirt in, I don't even know, like 2 years, right? I think that neither of us ever do our laundry, right?
It's a funny thing. I'm obviously on all the social channels, and there's a few people I'm connected to from the sort of professional world on things like Facebook and Instagram. And I posted a picture at a sort of a weekend family do where I was obviously dressed normally, and someone put a comment saying, "Has anyone ever seen Daniel Disney not in a red t-shirt?"
No.
Which made me chuckle. It's like when you see your boss outside of work for the first time. It's that kind of weird thing, and they're like, "Oh wow, they're a normal person."
Somebody once put up a picture of me. They caught me on the weekend. My weekend garb is always a white t-shirt. I try to rock the James Dean look if at all possible. But I just kind of look like a flabby James Dean. It's fine though. But they put up a picture and they were like, who is this guy? We never see him without this shirt on. Always be branded, man, right? Just always be branded, always be selling. It matches the color of your book on the bookshelf behind you, the £1 million LinkedIn message, right? So, I mean, you're on brand color scheme wise, you're on brand with the shirt. It's good stuff, man. It's really good stuff.
It's the marketing stuff I think I've learned over the last few years. I'm a salesperson, Josh. I'm sales to the heart. Marketing is not a natural thing for me, but after using LinkedIn for the last sort of 8+ years, little bits of marketing have sort of rubbed off. And I mean, we were just talking the power of a personal brand. I think we're going to dig into that today. And things like this make a difference. Building a brand, distinguishing yourself away from other people and having something consistent that people can then associate with you. It's a powerful thing. And if a little red t-shirt can do that, it's little things like that.
We're going to get all into this. Everybody listening, seriously, stay tuned in on this one. I'm just going to make a prediction right here. You're going to learn more about social selling on this episode than you will ever learn about social selling in your life. Maybe you might learn more if you read his book. So let's first let's start with that real quick, because I'm seeing this book on the shelf. Talk to me about the £1 million LinkedIn message. Talk to me about like when you got to a point in your life, because I'm sure you suffered with imposter syndrome like everybody does. For years, you were hiding behind memes on the daily sales. Let's be honest, right? So I'm sure you were struggling. When did you get to the point where you said, you know what? I actually know something about something. I'm going to write a book about this. What was that?
Do you know what, Josh? I still suffer from imposter syndrome. It doesn't leave you. And I think it's a good thing. It's almost an anchor that keeps you to the ground. It's easy in the world of social media, especially with likes and followers and audiences and influence and stuff. It can be very easy to sort of let your ego get away with you. And I think a small amount of imposter syndrome just keeps you grounded. So yeah, I still have it. But you're right, for a long time, when I launched the daily sales, probably for the first year, I didn't even put myself as an employee of the daily sales. I kept totally separate from it. It was its own individual entity. And there'll be probably a lot of people watching this. I get messages quite a lot who know the daily sales. They have no idea that I'm the person behind it, making the memes and putting all the content out. They have no idea who's doing that. And, I think for me, it was that moment where not long after I sort of launched the daily sales full time, quit my role as a sales director and sort of went into to run it as a full-time business, that a friend of mine, colleague, someone I'd worked with for a few years, sent me a message saying, Dan, you know what you're doing on LinkedIn. Can you come and show our sales team how they can use LinkedIn better? And I'd never planned to be a LinkedIn trainer, but I put a course together, went up, spent the day with them. I loved it. They loved it. They started getting great results from it. And it was that moment of, do you know what? Okay, yeah, I do know quite a lot about LinkedIn. I'm a salesperson. A lot of LinkedIn trainers are marketing people, and I can connect with salespeople in a much greater way. And it just sort of evolved from there. And then, last year I published my first book. And it was just an opportunity to focus on one of the worst areas of LinkedIn, which is messages. And I'm sure as well as I know, and pretty much anyone watching or listening to this, there are a lot of salespeople sending a lot of bad sales messages on LinkedIn. And so the motivation for this book was, right, I'm going to try and identify this problem and help salespeople learn how to send good conversation starting messages and not those horrible spammy sales pitch ones. Yeah. It's
awesome. I think that so many sales professionals that just like completely fall in love with the art of selling and decide to make it a career choice moving forward, it always starts with a really pivotal moment in your sales career. For me, I fell in love with sales the day that this was years ago, 20 years ago. I'm working in this marketing agency And one of the partners at the agency came in and he's like, man, you're really good at getting people on the phone. This is back in the day when cold calling actually worked. Okay. So he's like, you're really good at getting people on the phone. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I enjoy it, whatever. And he was like, I think you could get the president on the phone if we asked you to. And I said, well, I think you're going a little far with that one. And he goes, okay, well, how about this? I'm a painter. He was a world-renowned painter from Cuba. His name was Mario Fernandez. And he had made a painting to commemorate 9/11. And it was an eagle flying over an American flag. You could see 3 stars on the flag representing the buildings that were hit on 9/11. The thing was huge. It was like 7 feet wide, 4 feet high. It was huge. And he said, I think that I want to sell this to Ross Perot. Now, I don't know if you know who Ross Perot is. We're probably not the same age. I probably got 10 years on you. But Ross Perot was an American politician. He was made famous by Dana Carvey on Saturday Night Live, who used to do the most amazing just skits pretending to be Ross Perot with his big ears and his short stature and whatever. But he's a Texas multi-millionaire, probably billionaire. And he said, I think that he would like this. He likes American history. Can you get him on the phone? I said, I don't know, man. This was 20 years ago. I mean, do you remember the internet 20 years ago? Do you remember trying to find someone's phone number 20 years ago? LinkedIn was like this tiny little germ of an idea that nobody used, right? So I'm driving home. I'm like, how am I going to get a hold of Ross Perot? And I got home and I did a little bit of Googling and I came up with his son's name. And I found his son's phone number. And it turns out his son worked at one of his many companies in his Texas compound. I called his father first thing the next morning, 8 a.m., and talked to his son. And his son said, this sounds like something my dad would like. Let me give you his number. He gave me Ross Perot's direct number to his assistant. She put me right through. And I'm talking to him on the phone. And he goes, can you send me a picture of it? And this is back in the day where like it took 20 minutes for an email to go through. So we're just having this back and forth while we're waiting for the picture to go through on email. He finally gets it and he goes, how much do you want for it? I said, Mario wants $40,000. He goes, can you have it here in 3 days? I said, I'm sure he can. He said, all right, I'll take it. Bring it down. Mario hopped in the van the next day, drove all the way to Texas, came home, handed me that check. And at that point in my life, I was 19 at the time. That was the most money I've ever seen in one place at one time. That changed my life. I forever from that day wanted to be in sales because sales was incredible. Sales could change your life overnight. And I know that's kind of the basis behind £1 Million LinkedIn message as well. Like, what's the story behind this £1 million? And what do pounds translate in American currency? How many dollars is that in America?
I think it's 1.3, 1.4.
So it's even more.
Yeah,
okay.
So it'd be more dollars, yeah.
This would be like $1.4 million LinkedIn message. This sounds even better. We need to re-release this in America and just put a whole better title on it. But what's the story behind this?
There's a lot of people asking for the dollar edition, Josh.
Yeah. I'll help sponsor it. I'll throw some money in on this. Let's do it. As long as I can be a co-author, let's do this. But I mean, that's the whole idea behind this book as well, right? That's what sparked You Tell It.
Yeah, no. So look, and by the way, Josh, that was such a great story. And it's stories like that will inspire a lot of salespeople to realize what sales is about. I think there are a lot of salespeople out there that get into sales without really knowing why, and they've not had that moment yet. And they're sitting there with the pressure and the targets and the bad managers. And a lot of people get that bad impression of sales. But the story you've just shared is exactly what selling's about. It's that fire that burns inside where you're like, do you know what? I mean, you created an opportunity to speak to someone who 99% of people would never even think about how they could make that a reality. You did. And that's what sales is about. And I mean, obviously, I'm not going to reveal the entire story around the £1 Million LinkedIn message, but that's exactly what I did. I was a sales rep. The company wanted to get into some really big accounts. No one knew what to do, how to do it. And exactly what you did. Luckily, this was when LinkedIn was a much better platform. And yeah, I was able to use it to get into a very big company, to someone very senior, and managed to get a meeting that no one else could, which created what became a very big, probably one of the biggest sales I'd ever had. So the story focuses on that, and obviously focuses around LinkedIn messaging. But LinkedIn and social selling goes beyond that, from profiles, personal brands, and messaging's evolving so fast. I mean, I wrote this focusing on text-based written messages. Now we've got audio messages and video messages blowing up. I mean, there are so many opportunities for salespeople, so many tools. I mean, you think back, you trying to sell that painting with Google, pretty much just Google and a phone. Salespeople now, they've got social media, they've got video, they've still got the phone and Google. They've got all these tools. Yeah. I don't think there's ever been a better time to work in sales. I don't know if you agree.
Yes, 100%. No, there's never been a better time. There's never been, it's so fun. And I think it goes back to what you were saying before. You're a true salesperson. I am a true salesperson, but I can't tell you how many times I go to speaking engagements and people introduce me and say things like, "This is the best marketer I know." And I'm like, I'm not a marketer. I'm not. But I do very strongly believe that salespeople need to start thinking like marketing people. And I strongly believe that marketing people need to start thinking like salespeople. I think that's how we meet in the middle on this. I will always favor sales over marketing. But this is just part of our job these days. We are in the business of promoting who we are as people, because it's like we were bantering on before we got into this, and I don't know how much of that I'll bring into this, but people will always buy from people. And how do you build trust? You let people know who the heck you are. You let people know what you stand for, what you do not stand for, what you believe in, what your mission is in life, what your goals are, what your business does comes into that as well, because that makes the whole complete picture of who you are as an individual. At least that's in my mind. But talk to the people listening to this a little bit about, the power of, number one, we got to go down. Look, people saying you can't sell on LinkedIn, they are dead wrong. They are dead wrong. It's just because they're doing it the wrong way. So let's first start. What do you do when you walk into a room and people are telling me to stop selling on LinkedIn, right? I'm sure you've walked into a room of people that have said that. What is that conversation? What do you tell people?
There's two conversations I get. One is that, people tell me to stop selling on LinkedIn. Then the other conversation, as you've just kind of alluded to, is LinkedIn's a marketing tool. It's not a sales tool. Two, totally different barriers. And the conversation tends to be the same. It's like anything. You can use it when you know how to use it right. When you get results, the people that don't think it works are often the people that can't make it work for themselves. So addressing the two things. To stop selling on LinkedIn, it's the same principle as selling. You need to stop selling when you're selling. It doesn't matter whether you do it on LinkedIn, the phone, email, face-to-face. Stop selling. Stop trying to flog a product. Stop trying to spew features and benefits over someone. You're trying to solve problems. You're trying to help people. So when people sell on LinkedIn in that sort of stereotypical way, they're sending these spammy messages, spammy connection requests, only sharing content that promotes their products. That's no different to picking up a phone and just trying to vomit someone features and benefits until you think they're going to be sort of persuaded miraculously to buy. It's not what sales is about. So yes, you can use LinkedIn to sell. Yes, you should use it to sell, but sell properly. Do what sales is all about, which is help people solve problems. Then when you go to LinkedIn's a marketing tool, not a sales tool. LinkedIn's an amazing marketing tool. And Josh, as you just said, I think LinkedIn and social media has brought marketing and sales the closest they've ever been brought together, and you are 100% spot on. Salespeople need to think like marketers. Marketers need to think like salespeople, because the corporate marketing content that most marketing departments spew out isn't cutting it anymore, especially not on social media. And salespeople are good at selling things, but they don't necessarily have all the skills to create content, to create posts, to record good videos. All these things aren't usually natural skills for salespeople. So need to bring them together, because as you say, what we both were saying, people buy from people, and social media has created the opportunity to show your prospects and customers that you're not just another salesperson trying to sell them something, but that you're a human being, that you are someone who is immersed in your industry, passionate about the product and service that you offer, and dedicated to helping people with that. That's a powerful thing. I'll give you a quick example of what brings this to life for me. Again, I've worked in sales like you before LinkedIn, social media. I cut my teeth in sales, knocking on people's doors and making insane amounts of cold calls. Most of those conversations, I'd have to spend the first 10, 15 minutes telling them who I am, what I did, trying to build some sort of trust and credibility. The other week, I was approaching managing director of a really big global company, trying to prospect them for some advertising packages. Sent a connection request, softly customized. Got a reply back, someone I'd never spoken to before, never met, no relationship with. The first thing they say to me is, Dan, your reputation precedes you. Looking forward to talking. When can that ever happen in sales without personal branding and social media? That's the power of it. And that's the opportunity for salespeople to harness.
It's 100%. And why I was laughing there is I literally got that exact same response from somebody 2 weeks ago. I was asked to speak at an event. And in advance of speaking at the event, of course, I went and connected with the people that I knew were going to be there. It was a small group. It was 9 people. And there were a few people that I was not connected to. I did not know them. So I sent them a connection request. And one of them said the exact same thing. It made me feel so good. I actually told my wife about it, right? So, I mean, my wife we don't talk about my company too much, right? We try to keep it. But, that was one of those moments where I just thought, oh my God, I figured something out, because people actually want to talk to me. And it goes back to another thing that I say all the time. That is the point. When people say, well, everybody says be helpful. Everybody says bring value, right? And that doesn't mean anything to anybody because it's just words. How do you bring value? Illustrate how you bring value. And for me, it is making sure that you only speak when you know what you're speaking about. Okay? So if you're not an expert on something, then don't proclaim to be an expert, because people will see through that. Only speak when you know what you're talking about. And if you know what you're talking about, in my mind, it is your duty to help other people learn that. And when we're talking about learnings, one thing I wanted to ask you about, specific to what you were saying there, is you were talking about all the tools that salespeople don't use. How LinkedIn is a marketing platform with all these tools for marketers, and salespeople don't use those. My contention is that salespeople better start, if they're not doing them already, like they better start learning and they better start doing those. But what is your stance on this? I'm really curious.
Do you know what? I just want to take a quick step back, Josh. You said something about being an expert. I think it's a really good point. If you've got, here's the thing. A lot of people get really scared about creating content and about building a personal brand. And the reality is you don't need to have any experience to build a personal brand. There are SDRs, sales development reps, entry-level salespeople with less than 1 year sales experience building huge audiences and huge personal brands, not by telling people what to do, but by sharing their journey. So yes, if you've got experience, if you've got knowledge that you can share, absolutely, you have a duty to do that. You can help a lot of people. Social media is a platform to allow you to do that. But even if you don't let that fear hold you back, thinking that I don't know, I'm not an expert, I can't be an influencer. I've seen SDRs with bigger audiences than their companies have. They are creating content that's getting more engagement than the whole marketing team is creating and generating. So the potential's there. As you say, it's about sharing your knowledge, your stories, but being honest about it. If you're not an expert, don't proclaim to be, but just let people into your journey. They just want to follow your sort of process, what you're doing. Share what works, share what doesn't work, share your thoughts, share your questions, share your challenges, just share the sort of road that you're traveling down, because a lot of people are traveling down that same road and it will help you connect with them. And there are SDRs that are connecting with really senior people because they enjoy following it, because it gives them insights into their sales teams. The opportunity is sort of endless. So I just thought it's really interesting. I really want to touch on that. I think that's
great.
Bigger things.
You kind of answered my question as well with it, because the answer is, at least in my mind, how do you provide value is share. You could break it down to just one simple word, just share, right? Because that is how people get to know who you are. That is how people get to know how to trust you about certain things, right? Just the act of just sharing alone is going to put you light years ahead of so many people. But in that sharing, there's a lot of different tools that you can leverage in that sharing, specifically on LinkedIn. LinkedIn just rolled out stories, which it's only because of geography I have before you do, because in no other world would I have a tool from LinkedIn before you do. I know. Just come on over. I got an extra room in the house. You can move into the States for a while. Minnesota will welcome you. But, I have LinkedIn Stories right now. That's a great tool, and that's a really easy way to make video on LinkedIn. But there's other quirks to it, right? Like it doesn't show up on the desktop experience, which is a little bit of a weird miss, right? And it's not evergreen content. It's going to disappear unless you download it and reshare it. So there's some misses on it from a product standpoint, but beyond that, like there's so many different ways. You could be writing blog posts. You could be doing podcasts. You could be doing vlogs. There's so many different things. You don't have to master all the tools, but what is the conversation like when you're speaking to someone that's like, oh, there's all these things I have to learn. What is that conversation like?
The reality is, we all have to learn things. You and I will both remember. Do you remember making your first cold call, Josh? I remember it. Yeah. It was horrible. I remember the first door I knocked. I remember the first email I wrote. Everything is horrible when you start. And it does get harder, I think, as you get older to learn new things, and you tend to get a lot more resistance, as you go down that sort of chain. But the reality is we have to adapt. The world is ever changing. If this year has taught us anything, is how much can change in a short space of time. We've all had to adapt to virtual working, to more virtual communications. And, we've sort of forced our hand to learn it. I think this year has made more people comfortable in front of a camera than were ever there before. So we kind of have to change. When I talk to salespeople and sales teams, the key for me is to, first of all, relate to them, because it wasn't that long ago. I have no marketing background. I have no content creation background. When I started creating it, I had no idea where to start. I learned how to use LinkedIn from trial and error. I looked at what worked. I looked at what didn't work. And I just constantly adapted and evolved to become the best content creator that I could be. But there's no end of that. Like, I'm still learning. Stories is going to come out very soon into the UK, hopefully. But there are LinkedIn polls that have just come out. There's LinkedIn Live that's just come out. So you're constantly having to learn these new ways of creating content. The key, as we've already talked about, is about sharing. And when we say giving value, it's about providing content, sharing stories, insights, tips, knowledge that's beneficial to your target audience, your prospects and your customers. That's what value means. It's not promoting what you're selling, but it's giving them something that's going to benefit them. Like this, recording a podcast, interview people in the industry. That's valuable to the audience. Share insights, share stories, share experiences, things that are going to be beneficial to the other person.
But just to put an example on this is you selling, right? Let's not confuse it, right? Now, when somebody listens to this podcast, they're going to say, well, it's Daniel Disney. He's got a funny last name, but he knows what he's talking about, right? I'm totally kidding. But that's what they're going to think. This guy knows what he's talking about. Wait a minute. He wrote a book? Okay. So they're going to go out. They're going to get the £1 Million LinkedIn message. You have another book coming out. What's the next book called?
So the next book is going to be the ultimate LinkedIn guide for salespeople. So it's going to have everything, the A to Z of LinkedIn: profile, searching, connecting, network growth, messaging, content, strategies, tools, navigator. It's going to be the big book for me. I'm 90% finished writing it, and it's going to be published by Wiley, which is super exciting. Major publishing company pushing it. So super excited for it. But that's my passion, Josh. I just want to help salespeople and sales teams use LinkedIn the right way, because there is so much opportunity, as you know as well as I.
And that's why I say it. You are using it the right way right now. People are going to find you in an organic way, in a way that they feel comfortable finding you. Look, there's people that when we released this podcast, they probably dropped off 30 minutes ago, right? They weren't feeling it. It wasn't their kind of vibe, right? There's other people that are listening right now going, Josh isn't asking the right questions. I need to know more from this guy. All those things are going to be answered in the book. And I want them to seek out that information in the right ways. That is how you sell on LinkedIn today, right? You go, you do these sorts of things. This is why I do podcasts, right? That's why we're doing the Buyer Enablement podcast. When people are wondering, what the heck is Buyer Enablement? Why does Josh Feedy get to be the host of the Buyer Enablement podcast? Well, then they're going to look it up. They're going to see that I have a company that has a buyer enablement solution for them to bring into their organizations for their sales teams. I'm not selling them on that. They're going to deduce on their own that they have a challenge with enabling their buyers properly, and they're going to find me, hopefully, some of them, as a solution to their challenge, right? That's why businesses do these things. But you start from value, and value leads to sales. And that's why personal branding is so insanely important. And that's why
Really
we're finding... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, Josh, I want to jump in because what's really important, what you're identifying is how LinkedIn and social selling can work to generate inbound opportunities, which who doesn't want super hot, well-qualified leads? And that's what you're doing. When you're putting out this content, you are basically pre-qualifying people. So they're ticking the box. Yes, I run a sales team. Yes, actually, we're not using LinkedIn very well. Yes, this person knows what they're talking about. Okay, here is the solution that I'm looking for. And who doesn't like inbound leads? But you and I, we are hunter salespeople. So as a salesperson, I'm not going to sit back and just wait for people to come to me after I put out all this great content. I need to go out and create opportunities. And that's what so many, it's the one thing that most sales leaders come to me with is like, Dan, we want to use LinkedIn, but we want our salespeople to be proactive with it, not just sitting there creating content and waiting for people to come to them.
Yes.
And that's what I'm most passionate about. And that's the beauty of it, is that you'll be doing all this content, this personal branding, you'll be getting all these inbound leads, which is great. But through that all, so many opportunities to go out and proactively start conversations. No different to picking up a phone and calling them, but actually finding them through these various methods, sending them messages, maybe a video message, maybe an audio message, maybe a text-based message, and starting those conversations. Sometimes you'll be able to progress it through to an opportunity through LinkedIn. Most times it will go to a phone call, a Zoom call, maybe a face-to-face next year, but it's creating opportunities. So it's remembering that as a salesperson, hopefully you've got that hunter spirit, that fire burning inside. It's learning how to use LinkedIn to start conversations as well as attracting conversations to you.
Yep. The only thing I would add to that this is the important part in my mind for people to focus in on is, yes, creating this content, it's going to attract people to the content that you're producing. And you still do need to be a hunter, right? Like I want to be a hunter. I love being a hunter. I love going after deals. Here's the amazing thing about personal branding and social media and social selling is if you do it right, if you build your persona, and people start knowing you for a thing, when you reach out to them, they're actually excited to talk to you. That is so insane to me. I mean, look, I started my sales career selling cars, working in telemarketing offices, like doing the worst jobs possible where no one wanted to talk to you. No one, right? And people would scream profanities at you. And honestly, even 10 years ago, it wasn't that different. If you got through Betty at the gate at the big corporation and somehow you got through to the C-suite, they're like, oh, I'm going to fire her. You should never, right? And you felt horrible, right? That completely changes when you become somebody that people know somehow. They don't even have to be a first-degree connection. They can be a third-degree connection. If you're doing it right, they're probably connected to somebody that's liked some of the things you're doing, and it's a it's a friendly face when they finally get you on the phone, right?
Oh, Josh, I've had doors slammed in my face. I have had things thrown at me, all kinds of words said to me. You know, it is hard going in cold for a sale. And look, this is not about being soft around it. Salespeople should sort of cut their teeth in some of these ways. It's good to get that resilience because it's not always going to be warm. But you're right. Do things like this right. Do personal branding. Do LinkedIn right. And when you do send these outreach messages, it's amazing how many of them know who you are. They've already got a level of trust for you. They already pick you above your competition because probably a lot of your competitors aren't doing this. They want to talk to you. It's like knocking on a door, and instead of someone telling you where to go, they open the door and invite you for a cup of tea. And they actually want to start the conversation by saying, really love your content that you share, really help us share it with my team, really excited to talk to you today. There has never been an experience in sales where that's ever been a possibility. And what does it take? Spending a little bit of time on LinkedIn every day sharing. It's not a lot.
No, it's absolutely incredible. So what's great about this too is, you know, when people, it's like we've said before on this already, people buy from people they like and trust. They do. And you need to get to a point where people like and trust you. And anybody that's listening to the podcast right now going, Josh, all you guys are talking about is social selling. This is the Buyer Enablement podcast. What does this have to do with enabling buyers? The number one component in enabling your buyer is giving them the feeling of confidence that they've made the right decision, right? And decisions this is a big deal at some companies. When they decide to move forward with a vendor or a service or a product, this is a big deal. This could be a lot of money. And if you give them the confidence that they're making the right decision, that starts with the individual. Don't fool yourself. It starts with the individual. They don't care what your product is. They don't care what your business does. They don't care about the marketing jargon. They care that somebody that they trust put their stamp on it and said, I guarantee this is what you need because I've deduced this situation with you. I'm your strategist. I'm not a salesperson for this company. I'm on your payroll. I'm your strategist in this. I'm going to guide you through this properly. I'm not going to sell you something you don't need. We know you need this. We determined this together. Now that person's moving forward with confidence. That is the basis of buyer enablement. And that is why I wanted to have you on this show, because social selling and personal branding is critical to all of that happening.
Josh, I couldn't have put it better myself. And whilst that's your definition of buyer enablement, that's the definition of what sales is. That's what sales is now. Stop going out there trying to sell something. Go out there to help people. Enabling buyers, building that confidence, building that trust has never been easier to do. And just by building a personal brand and sharing content, you're able to show that credibility, and it almost makes you accountable, where they're looking at you thinking, well, do you know what? It can't, all these people following them, all these people engaging, all these recommendations they've got, all of these great conversations they're sharing, all this knowledge they're sharing. It's just proof. Again, previous to social media, you couldn't provide all of this up front. You couldn't provide this throughout the process, but you're able to do this just by sharing content on a daily basis. And I guess what's important here to sort of remember is that there'll be people listening to this that I imagine are in all various roles, positions, tenures in the world of sales. And we are certainly putting a lot of weight on experience and knowledge. Again, you don't need to have all of that to be successful. As I said, there are SDRs, there are entry-level salespeople doing all of this, not giving this knowledge away, but just sharing their journeys. So the potential's there. Everyone has stories to tell. And actually, salespeople are often great storytellers. That's how we build rapport and build relationships. It's just learning how to share those stories in different means, through video, posts, articles, blogs, vlogs, etc.
Yeah. No, there's two qualities I look for in sales professionals, whenever I'm hiring for a salesperson. And number one is the ability to just be a great storyteller. I think that that is the number one skill because I love a good storyteller. One of my favorite things is telling stories, and I hope my clients like that. But, back in the day, years ago, when we used to be able to meet face to face and go out for drinks or something and take our clients out, being a storyteller, leading that dialogue at the table, that's going to get you so far, right? Because nobody wants to sit and talk about your business. The other thing, though, that I look for is just being a good entertainer, right? So I want the Martha Stewart of sales. That's what I want, man. I want the Martha Stewart. I love when I know somebody's coming into my office, again, years ago when we could do those sorts of things. I'm getting the snack tray out. I'm setting out the 3 bottles of scotch that I think that person's going to like the most. I'm making sure that those scotch glasses are shiny. I'm making sure that I don't put the ice in the ice bucket until 10 minutes before they show up because I don't want that melting, right? I want the music at the right level. I want to make sure that the windows are open and whatever. I love entertaining. These are characteristics of a great salesperson. And those are characteristics that translate so well into social selling, right?
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of the people that you see, and I'm sure we can pop this in the notes of this episode, there are some amazing, amazing personal brands being built up in the world of sales. And they do it by sharing stories in different engaging ways. And they are entertaining people. They're providing a show. I mean, that's what I do. That's what I've been doing all this time by creating the memes and funny content and stories in the articles. It's entertaining the audience. And Josh, I'm the same as you. Do you know what? The first time I worked in sales, so very sort of long story short, my first job was in a DIY store here in the UK, and at 16 years old I was put on the tills, on the cashier, just checking out people as they left. I was there for 2 weeks, and the sales manager from the sort of kitchen department came over and said, I think I want to get you to give a try selling kitchens and bathrooms. This is a 16-year-old me, never sold anything in my life. Fell in love with it straight away, and the first thing I did, day one, no sales experience, first thing I did was start cleaning and dressing up all of the kitchen displays for when people got there. That was my first instinct, was to make sure it was presentable so that I had a better chance of effectively selling it. So that's always been at the heart of me, and social media is just a different landscape to do that. Instead of getting those scotch glasses ready, you're creating polished content. I mean, the setup you've got, Josh, the quality, everything, all aligns to that same principle of providing the right type of entertainment.
Yeah, no, this is great. So basically what I'm coming away from this on is that it sounds like Daniel Disney is actually a fan of Josh Feedy. So, and I'm not going to let you correct that. I love it. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean, look, we've spent a lot of money to make sure that like we can brand the background, the atmosphere, the way we do these things. We produce them at a much higher level than honestly we should. And I bet a lot of my investors are like, man, I wish he was more focused on revenue than that podcast, right? I hope they're not listening to this right now. But at the end of the day, this is important to me because when people see this stuff on LinkedIn, they're going to have that visual association with where this is coming from. And this is either going to be the Buyer Enablement podcast or any of the content I produce is either going to become a trusted source of information for them or it's not, right? It's the same reason that well, and you're not in the States, but you know, here in Minnesota or here in the States, you either see NBC on the TV or you see Fox News, right? Like you see the logo there and you know, well, this is either media that I trust or this is media that I don't trust. That's why we go to the length that we do, even though we're a small company, to make sure that this stuff visually is branded appropriately so that people know this is either a source of news or information that you want to know more about because of past experiences, or this is something you're going to keep scrolling past as you move. It's the same reason you wear the social selling red shirt every single day. Every time you show up on a video, I guarantee this is going to be the most listened to podcast for months here because people are going to see the red shirt and they're going to stop. That's what they're going to do.
I sincerely hope so, not just for the red t-shirt, but hopefully for the value that we've covered. But this is exactly the point, and a lot of salespeople don't think about that. I think this is an important point to sort of touch upon. When we talk about using social media and things like the medium of video, I see so many video messages sent by salespeople, which is good. This is a new thing for salespeople to send video messages to prospects, but they don't think about those details. I've seen people trying to sell high-ticket B2B items dressed in a sports-branded hoodie in a messy kitchen. You know, you've got to think about these details, but again, it's not a natural thing for salespeople to process, and this is all part of that learning and adapting thing. You know, I've got the book set up, I've got the memes and the daily sales on the wall, I wear the red t-shirt, and that I've been doing that consistently. When I have conversations now with prospects, 50% of the time, the first thing they say is, wow, I'm actually in your office. They feel, because they've seen it in so many videos, it's exciting. They feel like it's sort of like a mini studio. And those are the little experiences you can get. I get it. When I talk to some people that I know in the industry that have got these great sort of home office setups, it's exciting when you get to talk to them in it. So little details like that. If you're looking at creating content, if you're looking at making videos, you don't have to chuck a ton of money at it, but just think about those little details. It doesn't cost a lot to get a t-shirt with your company's logo on if you don't already have them. It doesn't cost a lot to get a bit of lighting, maybe a bit of branding on your wall. Little things like that can make a huge difference, or even just buying one of those sort of green screens or white or a plain color. But little things like that will make you stand out from all the people that are just using the camera that's on their laptop, sitting in their kitchen, doing videos.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to be so disappointed when I let them know that before we started recording, you panned your camera to the left and there's a bathroom right there. Like you're in the bathroom. No, I'm kidding. But no,
I'm going to peel this away and it's a stick-on picture.
No, but I mean, it's so important, right? And like a mutual connection of ours, the Sales Rebellion, right? Doing the same thing, right? He's got the backdrop. He's not in this big fancy office. He's essentially working in a closet, but he has the hat, exactly, all those things, right? It's a visual recognition. Again, this is where salespeople are thinking like marketers. That's how you drive the engagement. It's repetition. Marketing is all about repetition. Sales is all about repetition. You think about the number of sales professionals that send 90% of sales professionals never send more than one message to somebody. How the hell are they hitting? There's no way they're ever going to hit quota. Like, how does that stat exist? I sent one message to somebody and I never responded. Are you kidding me? You are never going to find success doing that, right? It's all about repetition. Marketing, it's the rule of threes, right? If you're a marketer, you know that if you're going to place an ad in a publication, when people used to place ads in publications, you had to do it at least 3 times because people had to see it 3 times before they started paying attention. It's the same thing with your personal brand. And I think that's the hard part for so many people is they listen to people like you, they listen to people like me, they give it a shot. and they don't get the endorphin rush of all the likes on the first post, and they try it a second time, they don't get the endorphin rush on the second post, and then they give up. They just give up. And that's not how it works, because it's such a crowded space. There's so much noise. The rule of threes has probably turned in the rule of like nines. I don't know.
Consistency is such a big thing, Josh. Like, you've really got to keep trying. And it's the same. Again, a lot of the principles people think, and we talk about it on LinkedIn and social selling, are exactly the same for other things. If you're going to phone someone once, I once had to phone a prospect 60 times before I got an answer. 60 every day, Monday to Friday, for 3 months, phoning them. I left insane amounts of voicemails, and I was utilizing LinkedIn at the same time. I sent messages. I did everything I could. And then literally, I think it was the 61st call, they answered. Blew my mind. I didn't even know what to do by that point. I was expecting voicemail again. And actually, they were happy to talk. I got a meeting. It was the craziest thing. But it took 60 efforts. So many salespeople give up after the first call, second call, third call. And it does take a lot. And it's the same with a personal brand. It took me a good couple of years to really get momentum with the daily sales, to get momentum with my personal brand. It takes a lot of content. You've just got to be determined, focused, driven, and passionate about what you're talking about. When you're giving value and you're sharing those stories, it becomes a lot easier, because you should enjoy it. It's a fun thing to share these stories. It's fun to do podcasts like this.
Yeah, especially when it's with me. I mean, I'm just so much fun to talk to, right?
I really am a big Josh fan, by the way. So
yeah. All right, that's the only micro content piece that we're pulling out of this, is Daniel Disney saying, I'm a Josh fan.
I'll put it on the next t-shirt, Josh. Hashtag
Dude,
Josh fan.
Seriously, tell me where to send the money. I want a shirt of my own, and I need the book. I need both of those things. Just tell me where to send the money. Take all of it. I need all of those things. I need to cut this off, because I told you I was going to keep this to, a certain amount of time, and I'm not doing a good job of that, because honestly, dude, I've wanted to talk to you for so long. I could just talk to you for like 10 hours. But here's what we're going to do. We're definitely going to make sure people know where to find you. We're going to do that. So let's start with that. So if somebody wants to find you or to learn more about what you do, where are all the things? What should they do?
Ironically enough, I'm on LinkedIn most of the time. Search for Daniel Disney. There are a few Daniel Disneys. Just look for the one with the red t-shirt. You will find me. I have a website, danieldisney.online. And that's chocked full of blogs and articles and content of LinkedIn and social selling tips. I'm on every social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, for anyone who prefers using those ones. But I am just trying every day to share content to help salespeople, sales teams, companies utilize LinkedIn and social selling as effectively as possible.
I highly recommend that everybody follow specifically Daniel Disney on LinkedIn. While you're at it, go ahead and follow the daily sales, because like everybody needs a laugh in their day, and that's what that's there for. But don't forget, there's a person behind this, right? It's just like we were joking before, like everybody knows who Corporate Bro is, but nobody knows who Ross is, right? I recently connected with Ross on LinkedIn, and it blew my mind, because I'm like, oh my God, this is the actual guy. Oh my God, right? There's someone behind this. But the content, the types of content that you share on daily sales, and the types of value that I can get from you as an individual on your individual account, completely different things, right? Like, yes, I need a pick me up in my day. Every salesperson does, right? But I also need like some helpful tips and tricks to like do better in my job. If you want helpful tips and tricks to do better in your job, you follow Daniel Disney. If you want to pick me up and you want to share something with your coworkers, you follow the daily sales, right? I mean, I hope that's fair for me to say.
That's totally fair.
So beyond that, but that was great. Thank you so much for being on this. One of these days, I'm coming out your way, man. And when I do that, I'm taking you out for the best dinner you've ever had. That's what I'm doing.
We should record an episode when we do that. I think, do you know what? If the
we're doing it
open, I would love to come back, Josh. I think we could have a lot of conversations like this. And I love you. I think we are on the exact same page when it comes to our passion and love for sales. So I would love to, because I know there'll be a ton of stuff that's helped people in this session, and I'm sure we could dig deeper. So I think what you're doing is fantastic, and I'd love to do more of this.
I could do this forever and ever. Honestly, I could not hit stop forever, and we could just keep doing this. But we will involve you in future episodes for sure. But if I ever get out your way, we're doing a live episode. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Well, dude,
I'm in
seriously.
the US.
If you ever make it to Minnesota, which honestly, don't underestimate Minnesota. It's a good time. But COVID ends, you get on an airplane, you come to Minnesota. Sales Reach is going to treat you right. Don't worry about it. Like, it is on the company card. We are going to have fun. But regardless, this has been really awesome. Thanks everybody for tuning in to the Buyer Enablement podcast. We'll be back with another episode in just 2 weeks, like we always do. Thanks so much for tuning in, and make sure to check out our guest, Daniel Disney. He's going to really help you with your personal branding, your social selling. You're going to improve if you just tune into what he's putting down a little bit more. Thanks again, everyone. So honestly, that was one of my favorite podcasts I've ever recorded.
And it was probably one of the most fun to listen to.
Probably. And we went a little long. I mean, it was almost an hour of us talking, and I honestly would have gone longer, except it was like 11 o'clock at night where he is. It was only 5 o'clock my time, so I could have kept going. But what I will say is I'm really excited. I mean, honestly, this is a really good example of what happens when you brand yourself properly online. I think he's turning into a friend right now, honestly. I honestly feel that way.
He's got you.
Immediately after the episode, he asked me to be a part of some of these hot sauce fire chat things that he's doing.
Yeah.
You've seen it. Fire Talks.
This is super fun. If anyone watches Hot Ones on YouTube,
yeah.
I mean, they have like super A-list celebrities on there.
Yeah.
Fire Talks, though, is like the same thing. They eat hot wings, super hot wings. I mean, like, I think they end with a hot sauce that's actually illegal in a couple of states.
Right.
So.
Right. I'm not looking forward to this. I have a feeling that he invited me onto it.
I missed that.
It wasn't in the episode.
Oh,
He after we were done recording, he said, "Hey, is this something you do?" I said, "Absolutely. Are you kidding me?" Now, I did not let him know that I have a mild case of IBS, which might not be so fun with all these hot sauces, but it might also make for a very valuable episode for a lot of the viewers.
My sales process is, I gotta go.
Sometimes you need to leave the room, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see how that one goes, but I'm excited about it. But regardless, it was really great speaking with him. I learned a lot from him on this, and I think that a lot of people tuning in will as well.
Yeah.
Just remember, hashtag social selling.
Yeah.
Do it the right way.
And
Don't
it can
do
be
it the wrong
fun.
way.
Sales can be fun.
It can be fun. It
Yeah.
can be fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jerod, what do we got?
Hey, this is super important. There's only one way that we feel loved.
Oh, no. Whoa.
5 stars on Apple. Apple Podcasts. You got to get over there. You don't even have to leave a text review. You can just slap the 5 stars right on the podcast episode. Yeah. And this is one that deserves 5 stars.
This one deserves 6 stars.
This was a fun episode. This was a lot of fun. This might even episode 4, Josh. We should have done this at end of season 1.
Yeah,
that's what we should have done.
We're coming out of the gate super hot with this one.
Hot.
Yeah, hot.
Fire Talks.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Daily sales.
Yeah.
5 stars, baby.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
Yep. And then don't forget to join our Enabler mailer, because Jerod, he's up to like 3 subscribers on this thing. So he's pretty much hit his marketing quota.
If I get 1 more subscriber, I've made my year.
Yeah, pretty much. So do that. Also, if you are a sales leader in the B2B space, we would absolutely love to talk to you if you're interested in being on our podcast. We're always looking for guests that have great, captivating stories of how they enable their buyers.
Yeah.
Episode 22. Yeah, we're booking out that far. Wow.
Get in line.
Yeah,
I mean,
get in early on the episode 22 action.
We've got a lot of bookings, man. People want to get on the pod.
I don't know what's going on. You're handling that stuff. But what I do know is that if you have interest in being on this show, we'd love to have you on. Are we a little bit quirky and silly? Sure. But who isn't?
Right.
And the ones that aren't, you're probably not listening to them. So let us know if you'd like to be on this show. We'd love to have you. We'll go from there. But anyway, have a great rest of your day. Make sure to follow us wherever you find your podcasts. And we'll see you at our next episode. Bye.